Hello wonderful humans, and welcome back to another video where I talk to you about my experience of reading Wheel of Time. Today I'm talking about The Shadow Rising, which is over here, and particularly I'm talking about chapters 8 through to 15, which I have just finished reading. So please don't spoil anything that comes after chapter 15. I know that's hard if you are not reading along with me, but just be careful. That's all I ask. I read a chapter, write down a page of notes in my journal, just one page, like that. Wonder if you were able to read that. And it is just my initial reactions. It's almost like a bit of a commentary, but I don't comment on everything. I don't talk about everything that happens. Don't expect me to touch on every single thing that happens. I just talk about the things that interest me, stand out to me, or the thoughts that I have at the end of reading the chapter. That's really all I'm doing. So I'm gonna get started today with chapter 8, Hard Heads. So this was a bit cute, this chapter, reading Elaine's point of view followed by Rand's after she'd left. It was super cute. Elaine has that quality about her that I really love to read, and I'm not 100% sure I can explain it, but she's a character that I'm just really hoping that I continue to love, because she's a bit cute. Even when she's unsure, or at least nervous in this case, she's able to be fully in command of herself and of the situation as much as possible. And she is going to be incredibly good at the political game side of things. Given she probably needs a Gwen and Nynaeve to back off a little bit and let her soar, because they're holding her back a little bit, I think, at this moment. She's already very good at the political game. She just needs that opportunity to really soar, because I'd imagine before she arrived at Tarvalon, she was under her mother's care and Aleda's eye, so she wasn't able to really fully embrace what she's capable of, and now maybe she'll get to have that chance soon. But I'm very excited to see her in full flight at some point in the near future, I hope. Rand's confusion it's fair enough. He's already overwhelmed and feeling out of his depth in Tyr, but handling the Tyrians really well. He's doing a really great job there. Partially thanks to Tom, I think. Maybe not even partially. A lot of it is due to Tom's expertise and his help. And then to also have the daughter heir approach him. And this is after Berelane's also approached him. So these powerful women are approaching him, but the daughter heir approaches him. Poor innocent Rand. And his thoughts about Min and Elaine. I think it's a shame we haven't read any of the interactions between Min and Rand as of yet. Not really anyway. We haven't had the opportunity. Just been told there's something there from their thoughts. We haven't seen it. We've just been told about it. Definitely a case of telling, not showing. And so yeah, I would like to see more scenes with them, because I really enjoyed this between Rand and Elaine. It's not just a liking each other from afar kind of thing. They're actually interacting. I loved the contrast of Rand's thoughts with his actions with the Lords. He definitely has natural leadership talent. We've seen that in other books, but we're seeing that again come into play here. But he's going to offside all the nobility, and that's awesome. I'm really, it's not awesome for him, but it's awesome for reading about it. I really loved reading the interaction between Gwen and Matt as well that happened at the end of this chapter. I really enjoyed it. I will say Robert Jordan, he doesn't appear to do relationships or even friendships. When I talk about relationships, I'm not just meaning like romantic relationships, but just in general, he doesn't appear to do them very well in his writing. Not as well as I would like anyway. It's definitely not the focus of his story, the relationships of the people, and I would personally like a little bit more of that. But he's done an incredible job with all the other elements, the set, the plot, the intrigue, everything else about it, the world building. the character development even. It's just the relationships I think is lacking, but I can deal with that because everything else is so amazing. I will be very surprised if Matt doesn't end up walking into the ter'angreal without permission within a few chapters. I'd say he will definitely be doing it. And Gwen's got to know that. She's got to know him well enough to know that mentioning it to him means that he's going to walk through the ter'angreal and find out the answer to his questions. That actually sounds like it could be a real growth opportunity for Matt to find out a little bit more if he plays his cards right, I think. Anyway, so next chapter is chapter 9, Decisions, and I really liked how Robert Jordan wrote the first half of this chapter. Like we're drifting through the crew, through their thoughts until something big happens. So there's little things that we need to know or are good for us to know, but we don't need a whole chapter or even like a whole section of a chapter devoted to it. We're just going to drift through and find out what they're all up to. Matt's clearly tempted by the ter'angreal. Perrin wants Fail somewhere safe. Nynaeve's taking moonlit strolls, good on her. Gwen is hungry for knowledge and answers and is spending a lot of time with Aviendha. And I really would have loved to have read that scene in there where where Gwen is having a bath and Aviendha walks in, sees that Gwen is uncomfortable, so she strips off and sits down naked. So, because that's why she thought that Gwen was uncomfortable, because now they're equal. But anyway, I would have loved to have read that scene because I think it would have been cute. And Elaine is demonstrating how amazing she is, just in general, and how valuable her experience is to Rand. He'll be a lot worse off without her by her side, and the sooner he sort of starts talking to her or including her in some of that thought process that he's clearly got going on, I think he will be better off for that if he ever opens up to that. And then Selene reappears, but Rand is not as caught up with her as he was before. I wonder if he'll tell anyone Lanfear came to visit, or just focus on the soulless assassin. Remember, I finished reading at the end of this chapter, so I didn't know what was going to happen next. Lanfear's definitely a little insane, I'd say, from her imprisonment and maybe from some of the other things that she's got going on. But her goal is as high as I expected. I didn't think she was doing this all for someone else to get the glory, the Dark One. I suspected that there might be more. So she wants to take out all the Forsaken and then even the Dark Lord so she can rule by Rand's side. But they're long-term goals. She doesn't need them to happen immediately. They're long-term. It's almost worth working with her. I hope that they don't. But it's almost worth working with her and then taking her out after they've taken everyone else out. But she or the Dark One would see through that, and it wouldn't be a good idea, I don't think. She's definitely talking of Elaine marking him, not the Heron brand scars on his hands like Rand seems to think. And that means Elaine is now in more danger from Lanfear than Gwen, which I'm really looking forward to. I think one of the things, it's really setting it up that Rand is probably not going to be able to take out Lanfear because she's a woman. So I think this will be one of the places where the girls can step up and take out a Forsaken on their own down the track. I can't imagine Lanfear will be got rid of very easily, and not for quite some time. And I absolutely love that Rand and even Moraine have no idea what a dragon is. I just thought that was a really nice little touch there, that it's lost all sense of meaning beyond Lu's Theron. Will they eventually figure out what a dragon is? Will it be relevant what a dragon is at all? Like, that's cool. I'm hoping we see a little bit more about that. Or has the name purely become something symbolic along the way? Either way, it's going to be absolutely awesome, and I'm really excited to see what happens there. Chapter 10, The Stone Stands. Oh, that's a bit of a tongue twister. The Stone Stands. Rand did tell Moraine about Lanfear. I guess he realises the Forsaken aren't something to keep a secret, which is a good thing. I think if they shared more things, I actually did read somewhere if the main characters in this, Moraine and the Fielders and Lan, were better at communication, the series would be half as long. So I do wish that they would communicate a little bit more, but at least he told Moraine about Lanfear and didn't just leave that. What I liked most about this is Rand didn't know what he was doing during this whole chapter. It took Lanfear's reminder about Calendar for him to shake off his fear about it, which meant that before that, he had to rally the defenders around him and watch many people die, which I don't like, but not great to have so many deaths, but it shows he will still make mistakes based on fear and simply acting in the moment. So we're not having him go from all of a sudden, we're not having that case that happens in some fantasy or some things, some movies, TV, where they get this item and then they're miraculously able to do everything with it. He's still showing that he's human, and that's fantastic. Moraine and Lan's tentative fear of him after the battle is something I assume he'll have to get used to moving forward. And I like that Moraine was shocked by what he was able to do. I am super curious as to his plan that he's going to tell them about, and also really like that he knew before the attack that he needs to act, not react, because I think I've been saying that for a while. But this, particularly the sight of the dead girl on the ground in front of him, may help him deal with his indecision. But he's right, the delay of only 3 days or so has given him time. The time he needed to work some things out, and maybe more importantly, the time with Elaine, which could have helped break the thrall-like stuff he experienced with Selene in the Great Hunt. So maybe the fact that he's been marked by Elaine will help him stand up to Lanfear, or not, I don't know, not just do whatever Lanfear tells him to do, because that seems to be what he was doing with Selene. No, he was still standing against Selene. I know they're the same person, by the way. It's just, I'm differentiating between the two, between the times that we saw her. Yeah, I think that might help him stand up against her in a way. I guess Perrin will double his efforts to find safety for Fail now, and I wonder who sent the attackers. Samael is my assumption, or one of the others, I suppose. I so need to know Rand's plans. I need to know what Rand is planning. That's what I'm wanting to know at the moment, but I think I'm gonna have to wait a little bit longer to find that out. Anyway, good chapter, a lot going on. The Trolloc attack and all of that kind of stuff. It was pretty epic, and I'm really glad that we only followed Rand's point of view. But as he was running through the stone, he came across the others. So we saw that they were, well, some of them were around. So I'm glad about that. But it was a lot easier just following Rand's point of view for this. Even if I would have liked to see the others as well, it makes more sense. So chapter 11, What Lies Hidden? So Aviendha has been welcomed into the girls' circle in some way, which will be very useful for them given Egwene seems to be heading to the Isle Wasteland very soon, I assume, if she follows what she's been told to do. Will the other two join her, or will they split up? I don't know if they should split up, but it would be interesting to see what happens between Egwene and Aviendha if the other two aren't there with them. At least it looks like Gwen now has a teacher, which is something I'm really happy about. I think it's always great when a character finds a teacher who can help them develop their skills, especially if she can get to Amis. I always enjoyed it when Egwene or Perrin explored Tel'aran'rhiod. I really love these scenes where they're wandering around and it's just these landscapes that they're exploring, or these settings that they're exploring with very few people, if any. And the more we see of it, like through Gwen, we're really learning a lot more about this place, and I'm really enjoying that. So I'm looking forward to finding out more when she reaches Amis and starts learning. So I'm really enjoying trying to guess what everything means and how it could be relevant. Whether it's relevant, it's all relevant in some way, I would say, but depends on how much. I'm guessing based on Amis saying there is a darkness or evil in Tanchico, that one of the Forsaken, perhaps Mogedion, maybe, she might be there, or it's just rotten in general, but Mogedion would make sense for the Black Aja, particularly Leandrin. But then thinking back just on something I said earlier, maybe it's the Sonshin who are in Tanchico. Who knows? I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there, because Leandrin was working with the Sonshin in a way, so would make sense, and that could be quite dangerous. And not what's up with the Angriel, the stone woman. It's tempting a Gwen, so will probably reappear at some point in the future. It's unclear if it will be good or bad for her though. So intriguing. I think that's often going to be the case with these dream world scenes. There'll be things that happen that will just intrigue me, and I'll just have to wait and see what happens. And the collar and 2 bracelets, I'm assuming this is a real object, and something used, it could be used against the Aes Sedai, maybe, similar to what the Sonshin use, or it could be something else entirely. It could be used against one of the girls, if that's what it is, or they might end up using it against someone from the Black Aja. Lots of possibilities there. It also could be used against Rand. It could be used, I don't know. It may not be magic in the way that I'm thinking it's magic as well. It might have some different properties that we'll find out about as we go along. This chapter has helped create a sense of purpose for the book. I think up until this point I've enjoyed reading it, but it's taken until now, this is chapter 11, for there to be sort of an idea about what's going to be coming in this book. So that's really good. Gwen has a clear task to do, which is find Amis, which they really didn't have until this moment. Just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of possibilities, but no clear direction. Although the girls still have 3 options, and they better not split up too much. Like, I don't want them to go 3 separate directions. I don't think any of them should go off on their own, but especially Elaine. I think that's not a good idea. But all 3 of them, they need to watch each other's back. And Gwen will be going off with Aviendha, I assume. So she won't be on her own. Chapter 12, Tanchico or the Tower. So they are splitting up, which is what I suspected. I like that Gwen plans to give them the dream ring. If they just think to include Perrin in the plan, then they all have a better chance of staying informed of what each other are doing. But of course they are becoming more and more Aes Sedai-like, so they would not think to include Perrin, a mere man. Why would you include one of the Tavern in any of your planning? That just makes no sense. It's sort of suggesting that they're not piecing together that it's all connected, even though the Black Aja report to the Dark One, or like a Dark Friends, they haven't put together in a way that it's probably all connected, and maybe they should work together a little bit. Maybe they'll work that out at some point. Ruark and Amis being married is great. I don't know why, it just is. I think that's awesome. This is all pushing me to think I'm onto something, that Rand isn't who the Isle were waiting for, but maybe it's a Gwen. And Aviendha is likely to have some power, but doesn't want to give up her life as a Maiden of the Spear. I'm super intrigued and happy she's obviously going to have a bigger part to play, because I think she's a great character, and I'm hoping we do get to learn more about her, because she's a bit of an enigma at the moment. Maybe she can also teach Gwen how to fight, or at least physically defend herself, because I think that's what a lot of the Aes Sedai are lacking, because they rely on the one power so much. So maybe if they had a little bit of a physical defense or some more training, then maybe they'd be better suited to not getting caught so easily. They're heading to Tenchico, very, very unprepared again. Very possibly straight into a trap. It's very possible. And Gwen's flying over the city in the dream world, maybe all the warning the Black Aja need to know that they're coming. If they are in Tenchico, I can imagine Leandrin making sure that one of them is watching over the dream world at all times, just to see you, because they would have assumed that Gwen would go seeking what was going on. So I just feel that they could be heading into a trap. And what killed the 2 prisoners? That is really terrifying. It could have been anything, and it was so brutal as well. Was it something that they could have fought off if they were not shielded and unable to do anything? Super scary, and the girls appear to have brushed it off like completely, as if it's nothing major to worry about. That happens a lot, which I don't think, that's another probably area that I think they brush off a lot of things as things that they don't need to think about. Maybe it's just in denial. Maybe that's what, I'll just assume that they're in denial, and that's fine. It made their decision easier though, not to go to the tower, almost forcing or controlling their decision to head into what I fear is a trap. So it may not be a trap, they may, like it might not be, but I just really fear that it is. And I do worry about what that might mean if it's the Assumption. Nynaeve or Elaine could end up, sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. If they get caught by the Assumption, they could end up getting taken back before anyone even knows they've been caught, back to the other place. And that could be really interesting how that plays out as well. Cool. So many possibilities. Or they might not get trapped at all. They may not get caught, and that may not be a trap. It's a trap. I think it's a trap. Chapter 13 is next. Rumours. And they're all being sent in different directions, most likely to set up a lot of future events. All 5 of the Emmonsfielders are heading off in a different direction, from what we can tell. I'm really worried about Perrin returning home. It feels so ominous. Oh, I'm really, really worried. It's interesting he appears to be the only one thinking more about the pattern and how the pattern is moving them. The others might be thinking about it. I don't think the girls think that the pattern is controlling what they're doing at all. Perrin is, we don't know what Rand's thinking about it at the moment. Matt's just in denial. The pressure Matt is feeling though, he's starting to realise the pressure to follow a certain path. It's great. I think this is fantastic. Of all the characters, it makes the most sense he would feel it as pressure, whatever the pattern is doing, as it goes against his natural inclinations and desires. He doesn't want any of this. The pattern almost needs to put more pressure on him than it does for the other characters, particularly Perrin and Rand. So I think that's actually really great. I like that. But he's been ruminating, he's thinking it all over, and you can see he's putting it together. Even if he's not quite accepting it, he is piecing things together. He'll be going to the Terangriel very soon is my guess. I'd say very, very soon. And then maybe to Tar Valon. Is that where he's headed? Maybe the tower is his destination. That is not what I expected at all. I can't quite work out why he'd be going to the tower, but that's just with the coin and everything, with the flame. He's trying to get away from the Aes Sedai. So it could mean that that's where he's going to get drawn back, or it could mean that he wants away from the tower. Anyway, I can see a clearer path right now for the other Emmonsfielders and all of the characters in general. But Matt is a real mystery. I really am still trying to piece his story together. Maybe he'll go get into trouble with Gawain and Gallard, and Min too at the tower. Maybe some training, I don't know. There's lots of things that he could do there. And I wonder if Tom will go with him or stay near Rand or go in a different direction entirely. Rand probably needs him more if he stays in Tyr or around the political stuff. But maybe not if he goes elsewhere. I suppose it really depends on Rand's choices, which we still don't know yet. And what's this about Trollocs protecting Matt? What reason could they possibly have for doing that? Did they do it of their free will? I don't know if Trollocs really have free will or not, Or did they do it at someone's command? That is just one of those things that I'm sitting there going, this is cool. I'm really intrigued to find out more about that. And I'm really loving Matt's journey, just his journey in general, just because it's keeping me guessing so much. I start thinking I may have him worked out a little bit, or may have some of what Robert Jordan has planned for him worked out, but I have no idea. And that's probably what's intriguing me most about Matt, and why I'm enjoying his journey so much. Still wouldn't say he's my favorite character, but his journey and his storyline, I can see why so many people think he's amazing, because his storyline is so captivating. I really enjoy the chapters that I read from his point of view, so that's cool. And I really love how much he hates that this is his life, but he just does it anyway. Like, I love that sort of, that trope, that reluctant hero. And I thought it was Rand to begin with, but it's so Matt. Like, he's just fantastic. I really hope his family are okay, in the Two Rivers. But I've got to say, I am more worried about Perrin's family than I am about any other character at the moment. I feel that the White Cloaks have it in for Perrin, and Bernhold Jr. is going to do something to his family, and I'm really, really worried about them. Chapter 14, Customs of Man. Things like Perrin misjudging Matt, thinking that Matt doesn't want to go home, which Matt does want to go home, but he also doesn't, for different reasons. But this is what makes me think they don't know each other very well, or they've just really changed and grown apart so much over the course of the books so far. They've lost each other along the way. I feel that they don't know each other. I understand Gwen and Nynaeve not seeing the real Matt, but I would have thought that Perrin and Rand would think more highly of Matt, but they really don't see anything more than the prankster, and the person who is selfish and won't do anything for anyone else, and all that. So anyway, Perrin just didn't hear Matt when he was saying that that he couldn't even say that he was going home. Like, he wanted to go, but he was being prevented from saying that, which is odd considering Perrin seems to be putting some of this together. Anyway, Berryland's going to be trouble at some point. I assume High Lord Torian has put her up to the task of seducing one of the Tavern. She should have picked Matt. And when she walked past Matt, I think in the last chapter or in an earlier chapter, was he too similar to her or similar to someone else, Rand or someone else? So she chose to go for Perrin instead, thinking he'd be easier or a better mark. I don't know, but she should have picked Matt, because I think if Matt was shown, not now maybe, but in that first moment, if she had shown any interest in Matt, then maybe that would have played into his ego, and she would have been able to do what I imagine she's been tasked with. I really do wonder what her goal is, her overarching goal, what she's been promised, if she's been promised something by the High Lord. And then there's the question of the High Lord Torian. What does he want from her? Are they working together, or is he holding something above her? And is he a dark friend? Because that wouldn't surprise me. And then that raises then the question, is Berylane a dark friend, or is she just caught up in something bigger than she can really handle? Lots of questions there. She could simply be doing it for the safety of her people and for her, for the Mayan people just in general. So that's also a very strong possibility with her. I can't imagine Loyal will be thrilled about going by the ways with Perrin. So I wonder how he'll be convinced. He seems the type who will want Moraine's permission. So I'm not sure if Moraine will give permission or whether Perrin will convince him some way. Fail is obviously going to go with them, which makes me happy, because Perrin will probably be more careful if she's there with him, and it might help keep Perrin safe as well. I obviously know, well, I feel that they're not going to die anytime soon. There's still a lot of books to go. But I'm just, it's good to know that someone will be there with him sharing the journey. And some clues here about Fail. She's from Saldea. My guess is potentially that her father is the king, or the king equivalent, whatever it is in that country. And she was trained to be a princess or a lady of the court, more ornamental than anything else. I think she hinted at that in the last book. Another person, she is another person whose experience will be incredibly useful if she embraces them rather than hiding from her past. I think that there's a lot to be learned. Min is learning that, I assume, in Tarvalon at the moment, where she can have one persona, but there's something to be learnt and something that she can embrace in a way from her given name. So I think the same could be said for Vale, that maybe she'll find that embracing her past and who she is could be of benefit to herself and also to those around her. Anyway, I think that will come down the track, quite a way down the track though. And just, it was great to see Vale's point of view here. Definitely offered great insight into her personality and her feelings for Perrin, which I really enjoyed. I'm mostly now at the end of this chapter just worrying about Berylane and what she's going to do next. Hopefully she's not going to show up in the Two Rivers. I mean, it's possible. I don't think she will, but who knows? Unless she's actually there to help, and then she can show up wherever she wants. But yeah, I think that could be... I'm curious, is she a potential ally, or is she already a dark friend? I'm assuming, I've made my mind up that Torian is a dark friend. I don't know why, he's not really doing anything major, but I've just made my mind up about that. He's trying to manipulate things behind the scenes. So it's got me worried about Berylane and what's going on with her. But maybe once Torian is out of the picture, if he's out of the picture, then she will be able to come into her own, and maybe she will prove to be an ally. Maybe she won't though. It might be cool to have someone who's not an ally in a different way to the White Cloaks or the Forsaken or the Trollocs and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, and the final chapter for today is chapter 15, Into the Doorway. So this is what I was waiting for. I knew Matt was going to go through, but so not only Matt, but Rand and Moraine went through into the Terangrial. If this can't convince them to sit down and lay all their cards on the table, nothing is going to right now. If they had been smart, they could have all taken turns. They could have planned out their questions. They could have gone through one at a time. They could have shared knowledge and had a better idea of what's going on, just the bigger picture stuff. But no, that's not how they're going to play this at all. It's just like Matt, though, to have got distracted when asking the questions, and not ask what he wanted to know, but get distracted and angry and ask the questions he didn't want to ask. But he got more answers out of them than he should have. 4 extra answers? I don't know. I'll be interested to see how they play out as well. I wonder who the daughter of the 9 Moons is. Is it someone we've met, or is it someone still to be introduced? Because if it's someone still to be introduced, I've got no chance of guessing. But if it's someone we've already met, then could be Avienda, for example, which may make sense with her not wanting to go home. There's a whole lot of those. Maybe Avienda and Fail have a lot in common, and they just don't want to go home because they've got important roles. Maybe it's Avienda. Anyway, he's going to end up traveling with Egwene and Avienda. Is it her? Which is bound to be fun anyway, I think. The 3 of them. I hope someone, Ruark or someone like that, goes with them just to sort of tone down it could be quite funny actually. I just want the 3 of them to go together. Maybe Egwene might learn to treat Matt a little bit better, might learn to see him for who he really is, not for who she thinks he is as well. I find it really amusing anyway if Matt marries before any of the others do. I just think that would be fantastic, and I hope that happens. I hope we find out Moraine and Rand's answers from the Terangrial very soon. I'd like to know. I'm super curious what they have been asking, and if they are able to understand what they've been told, if they've got the translation right and all that kind of stuff. I love that Matt didn't even realise they were speaking the old tongue, and Rand obviously hasn't realised this is the case either. Moraine suspects, but of course keeps it to herself, because why would you share information like that? And if Rand had realised, he would have asked Matt's help translating some of the books that he's been reading, is my guess anyway. So Matt and Egwene are off to Ruidian. I'll look that up later. Perrin to the Two Rivers, Nynaeve to Tanchico, and Fail to the Two Rivers as well with Loyal, potentially anyway, I assume. And what about Rand and Moraine and Lan? I feel we're just about to get right into the whole book. I feel like it's just on the cusp of more journeying, but we're going to find out where it's going next, because as soon as I think we find out where Rand is off to and what Moraine is doing, it'll make a lot more sense what is going on. But that is a wrap for this video. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts on chapters 8 to 15, and I will be back again next week with the next section. I'm roughly doing 7 chapters. There's a couple, I think 2 videos. This video had 8 chapters and another video will have 8 chapters, but for the most part it's 7 chapters at a time, because that was just how it divided. And get down in the comments and I don't know, let me know what you thought. I wish I had something better to ask you right now, but anyway, I'd be interested to know your thoughts about this section of the book. And yeah, that's really all from me today. Have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you next week with more videos. Bye.